It's not by chance that you're viewing this video. There's a reason you're here. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust the timing of your life and know that you're being led to where you're meant to be. As you stumble on this video, perhaps not by chance, it will serve to awaken your spirit. You have cried quiet tears, endured silent seasons, and been abandoned by people who once claimed to care. But here's what they didn't realize. While they were walking away from you, heaven was drawing near. While they were counting you out, God was writing you into His plan. What is about to unfold in your life will be so divine, so undeniable, and so unexpected that it will astonish those who left you behind. Not because you sought revenge, but because God's redemption speaks louder than rejection. Before we begin, I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe, because this is more than just a video. It is a prophetic word, a divine confirmation for those chosen ones who have been left behind, overlooked, and underestimated. If your spirit resonates with this message, type 77 in the comments right now. That number is not random. It is a spiritual code, a signal to heaven and to the realm of the spirit that you are aligned, positioned, and ready for the extraordinary breakthrough that God is about to release in your life. This message is not intended for everyone. It is specifically for those who were rejected for a divine reason and refined for a higher purpose. It is for those who have endured isolation not as punishment, but as preparation. And to those who remain through the end, there will come clarity, healing, and divine insight concerning the new season they are about to enter. This is not a word to be heard once and then forgotten. It is a living word, a divine seed planted within the soul. Revisit it as often as your spirit prompts you, for with each return, a deeper layer will be revealed, a fresh confirmation will arise, and the pain that once seemed senseless will begin to make profound spiritual sense. God did not forget you. He intentionally hid you, not out of neglect, but out of protection and preparation, so that, in His perfect timing, He could reveal you to the world. And that time is no longer approaching. That time is now. Let us begin. Chapter 1. God allowed their departure to clear the room. Chosen one, their departure was not a mistake. It was an act of divine precision. The very people you believed would stay with you forever were only assigned to your life for a season. And when that season came to an end, God did not plead with them to remain. Instead, He opened the door and allowed them to walk away. Not because He didn't care, but because He cares so deeply about your purpose that He refused to let it be contaminated by those who lack the spiritual maturity to steward your next level. You kept questioning why they changed, why they became distant, why the love seemed to vanish. But what you didn't realize is this: it was God who was orchestrating the shift. He was the one creating the distance, strategically, purposefully, because your calling is too great to be compromised by connections that cannot carry the weight of your destiny. Because the blessing God is about to release over your life requires an environment that has been cleared, free from jealousy, untouched by manipulation, and void of hidden motives. Some people simply could not handle the version of you that God is preparing to reveal. They were comfortable with your weakness, but intimidated by your strength. They supported you when you were broken, uncertain, and dependent on their validation. But the moment you began to heal, grow, and understand your identity in Christ, their attitude shifted. They became cold, quiet, and eventually distant. And yes, God let them leave. It hurt, but the hurt was holy. It was part of the refinement process, part of a necessary separation that was always destined to occur. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you have been marked for something right, something greater. Not everyone is equipped to journey alongside someone who has been chosen for a high and sacred assignment. That is why God allowed them to walk away, so that He could step in more fully. He quieted their voices so that His voice could be heard more clearly. He cleared the room so that His glory could fill every space. Because where He is taking you, the environment surrounding you matters deeply. Your spiritual atmosphere must remain light, pure, and free from any weight that could pull you back into cycles you have already overcome. You have spent so much time grieving those who left that you have come dangerously close to missing the ones God is now preparing to send. God is sending kingdom people, spirit-led partners, divine friends, and those who recognize your anointing without feeling threatened by it. These are individuals who have no need to compete with your calling because they are fully engaged in walking out their own. You did not lose support. You were delivered from sabotage. You did not lose love. You were freed from leeches. You did not lose alignment. You gained divine clarity. And now the room is clear. The silence is sacred. The air is purified, and the atmosphere is finally right. The miracle that is about to unfold in your life cannot afford spectators with divided hearts, crowds with secret intentions, or familiar faces who never truly saw the real you. This moment requires only you, God, and the divine blueprint He has prepared. This is your divine reset. This is your appointed release. Very soon, the same people who counted you out will have no choice but to witness what God does next in your life. They will hear your name being spoken in rooms you have never stepped foot in. They will watch as doors open that no man can shut. They will see you shining with a light they cannot dim, because your radiance does not come from attention, but from divine assignment. So breathe deeply. Release those who walked away. Keep your posture pure, your heart fully surrendered, and your vision focused. For what is coming next required the room to be emptied first. Chapter 2. Your silent season was a sacred season. Chosen one, do not be misled by the silence. It was never abandonment, it was divine alignment. While you were wondering why no one was reaching out, why doors remained closed, and why you felt invisible, God was orchestrating something far deeper behind the scenes. You were not being punished, you were being prepared. Your silent season was heaven's hidden workshop. While others were busy building platforms, you were being built as a person. While they pursued applause, God was anchoring your anointing. While they focused on being seen, He was shaping your value. What appeared to be stillness was actually strategic, and what felt like delay was, in truth, divine development. God temporarily removed you from the public stage in order to strengthen your spirit. He silenced the surrounding noise so that you could clearly hear His gentle whisper. He dimmed the spotlight to increase your spiritual sensitivity because the calling upon your life is profound and weighty. God did not want you to collapse under the pressure of that calling, so He chose to train you privately in preparation for what you are destined to carry publicly. You did not miss out on anything. You were being molded. In the silence, God was healing wounds that applause could never mend. He was purging you of the need to please others, releasing you from draining relationships and unhealthy attachments. He stripped away the distractions, the desire to be seen, and the addiction to constant activity, until all that remained was you and Him in intimate communion. That quiet room was, in fact, a holy place. That lonely road served as an altar. That dry and barren stretch was the desert where God imparted divine vision into your soul. You were not buried, you were planted. And now, what had been forming in the unseen depths is about to break through the surface with undeniable power. This is why you now move with peace, why your steps are intentional, and why your eyes reflect a clarity they once lacked. In the silence, you were sanctified. In the stillness, you were healed. As a result, when you speak, your words carry weight. When you move, you do so with precision. And when you show up, heaven itself supports you. People may not have noticed your growth because it did not take place on stages or in the spotlight. It happened in sacred stillness, where transformation was hidden but holy. But God noticed. The angels took note, and all of heaven recorded every moment. The reward that is now approaching will not come because you shouted or sought recognition. It will come because you remained. You remained faithful. You remained available. You stayed in the place of transformation, even when it made no sense to the natural mind. Chosen one. This is why your voice now carries a different weight, why your very presence shifts the atmosphere, and why your words pierce more deeply than before. It is because they are no longer laced with mere opinion. They are saturated with divine oil. The very ones who once overlooked you during your season of silence will be astonished by the sound of your breakthrough. The Gadala, that quiet season, was never a punishment. It was a prophecy unfolding in real time. You did not merely survive it, you were sanctified through it. And now, the world is about to witness the strength, depth, and glory of what was built in the silence. Chapter 3, the stone they rejected is becoming the cornerstone. Chosen one, though you were counted out, you were never canceled. You were underestimated, but never unworthy. They judged you through the lens of your past, your flaws, and your setbacks, concluding that you did not qualify. Yet what they failed to recognize is that their rejection was instrumental to your revelation. They could not perceive the oil upon your life because it was concealed beneath layers of obedience. They mistook your quietness for weakness, your humility for insignificance, and your patience for a lack of potential. But all the while, God was forming something unshakable and solid within you. They simply lacked the spiritual vision to see it. You are the stone they rejected, the very one they believed would never fit into the structure. They judged you as too much, too little, or simply too different. But the same stone they cast aside is now the one God is using as the cornerstone. And what is a cornerstone? It is the foundation, the first stone laid, and the most critical element of the entire structure. Everything else must be aligned with it. That is who you are becoming, not merely a part of something, but the very piece that defines it, supports it, and sets its direction. They walked away, laughing, convinced they had you figured out. But what they didn't know was that while they were leaving, heaven was preparing a seat for you. They failed to realize that every tear you cried was watering the soil of your destiny. Every door they closed was, in fact, guiding you toward the very door that God had already prepared and opened. You are not returning for revenge, you are rising for revelation. Those who once dismissed you will have no choice but to witness the elevation they never anticipated. Not because you forced it, and not because you sought validation, but because God has chosen to make a public display of His glory through your life. When David was anointed king, he did not chase Saul's throne. Instead, he waited patiently for divine timing. In the same way, you understand that the field, the place of obscurity and preparation, was never a punishment. It was the proving ground for purpose. So when the appointed moment arrived, David did not need to fabricate power. He had already been forged in the wilderness. And now, chosen one, it is your turn. The wilderness has made you wise. The rejection has cultivated resilience within you. The silence has sharpened your sensitivity to God's voice. And now that you have been proven in private, God is preparing to present you in public. This is what they never expected, that you would return stronger, not bitter, bolder, not broken, full of peace, not pride. And that is how they will know it was God, because your elevation will not resemble the world's version of success. It will be marked by a purity they cannot replicate and a favor they cannot comprehend. They thought they were walking away from weakness, but in truth, they were stepping aside to make room for greatness. So let them look, let them wonder, let them talk. You do not need to announce your arrival. Your life will speak for itself. And when they ask how it all happened, your only response will be, "It was the Lord's doing." And it is marvelous in our eyes. You are the stone that was once rejected, yet now you have become the cornerstone, the very foundation God is using to construct something unshakable. Chapter 4, what broke you built you. Chosen one, they watched as your world appeared to fall apart, never imagining that God would take those shattered pieces and use them to construct something stronger, deeper, and more powerful than ever before. They mistook your breaking for the conclusion of your story, but in truth, God was merely turning the page. They saw your tears, but they didn't stay long enough to witness the transformation. They heard your silence, yet remained unaware of the weight you were carrying beneath it. They saw a cracked version of you, tired, confused, and heartbroken, and walked away, convinced you would never recover. But what they failed to understand is that your breaking was not a curse. It was a blessing in disguise. It was the beginning of your becoming. What broke you ultimately built you, because what the enemy intended to use for your destruction, God sovereignly used for your development. The breakdown was not a mistake. It was divine. The pressure you experienced was never meant to crush you. It was designed to press the oil out of you. Every betrayal you endured, every rejection you silently accepted, and every night you wept yourself to sleep was not in vain. It was sacred. It was an essential part of your becoming. God transformed your pain into a process, a holy blueprint for your purpose. And while others walked away, assuming it was over, Heaven was just beginning the true construction. You did not die in it. You did not lose your mind in it. You did not give up even when everything around you seemed senseless. And that is why you are still standing, stronger, wiser, clearer, and more surrendered than ever before. Now, the very things that once broke you have become the foundation of your wisdom. The situations that once made you question your worth are the same ones that gave birth to your discernment. You have gained insight that no book could ever teach, and you have learned to stand tall in rooms that once made you feel small. You found your voice in the very places where you once lost yourself. You have experienced enough to justify walking away bitter, yet you emerged better. You have endured enough to justify building walls, but instead you chose to build altars. That is why when you speak now, your words carry weight. Not because they are loud, but because they are true. They flow from a place of survival, from deep encounter, and from intimate communion with God. In the midnight hours, you are not performing, you are proclaiming. And your scars are not marks of shame, they are sacred. They stand as evidence that God can take what was meant to break you and transform it into something beautiful. What broke you gave birth to your purpose. What crushed you released your calling. What once embarrassed you has now empowered your empathy. So when people see you today, walking in clarity, radiating peace, and speaking with undeniable authority, they may ask, "How did you get here?" And with a knowing smile, you will respond, "It was the breaking. It was the pain. It was the process. But above all, it was God." Because the truth is, you were not built in comfort. You were built in the fire. And the fire did not destroy you, it refined you. You are not a product of your pain. You are a reflection of the God who pulled you through it. This is not the version of you that was once broken. This is the version that was built on purpose, with purpose, and for purpose. And that is precisely why the enemy fears you now, because he did not succeed in breaking you, he only helped build you. Chapter 5. God is about to make a public display of a private process. Chosen one, let this serve as your confirmation. God is preparing to reveal what he has been doing within you, behind the scenes. The very things no one saw you endure, the silent battles, the hidden struggles, the whispered prayers offered through tears, are all about to make sense. You didn't take shortcuts. You didn't manipulate your way to the top. You didn't compromise your integrity or sell your soul for visibility. While others were performing for the crowd, you were being purified in the secret place. While they sought applause, you were on your knees seeking strength. And now, the same God who saw you honor him in private is preparing to honor you in public. The process you submitted to in silence is about to produce a manifestation that cannot be ignored. You did not chase recognition, you pursued righteousness. You did not seek platforms, you sought purity. You were never in need of a stage, you were in need of his spirit. And because you chose the narrow road, the humble place, and the path of silent obedience, God is preparing to do something in your life so profound that no human hand will be able to take credit for it. This is not the result of self-made success. This is a divinely orchestrated elevation. God saw every moment when you wanted to give up but remained steadfast. He observed each instance when you swallowed your pride rather than defended yourself. He took note of every opportunity you turned down simply because it did not align with your anointing. Heaven recorded your sacrifice, and now it is heaven's turn to respond. What was cultivated in silence is about to speak with undeniable volume. What was birthed in the wilderness is about to flourish in the open. What was once misunderstood is soon to become unmistakably clear. This moment is not about celebrity, it is about credibility. God is preparing to validate you in such a way that every whisper, every lie, and every false assumption will be silenced. And this vindication is not for the sake of your ego, but for the glory of his name. God is raising you up, not merely to bless you, but to display you as a prophetic sign in the earth. A living testimony that obedience still carries weight, that holiness is not outdated, and that those who serve faithfully in private will be honored publicly, not by human applause, but by God himself. You have been processed in isolation, purified through pain, and positioned in prayer. You are now being presented in power, so that those who once overlooked you will become witnesses, and those who counted you out will be compelled to watch as God counts you in. Not because you retaliated, but because you remained faithful. Not because you forced your way, but because you moved in alignment with the Spirit, ushering in a divine shift so undeniable, so precise, and so heaven-sent that it will leave all who see it utterly stunned. Though some will say, "We thought they were finished. We thought they missed their moment," God will respond, "No, I was merely preparing them." For this unveiling is not abrupt, but deliberate, not a sudden emergence, but a strategic revelation. This breakthrough is not a stroke of luck, but a righteous manifestation. And this favor is not fleeting or fast, but the matured fruit of enduring faith. Because, chosen one, you are not being exposed for scrutiny, but revealed for purpose. And this revelation will not be noisy for attention, but loud in spiritual power, loud in transformative impact, and loud in undeniable results. For when God completes the work He began in you, even those who abandoned you, doubted you, or mocked you will be compelled to declare, "This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes." So prepare yourself, for the curtain is about to rise. The stage belongs to God, and yet He is calling you forward into divine purpose and fulfillment. Chapter 6. The table is being prepared. Chosen one, hear this message with clarity and conviction. Psalm 23 was never intended to be understood merely as poetic language. Rather, it is a divine promise, intricately wrapped in prophetic truth. When the scripture declares, "He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies," it signifies that God's intention was not only to bless you, but to do so openly and unmistakably. This preparation is not occurring in private or in obscurity, but rather in the very place where you once faced rejection, humiliation, and abandonment. The current season of your life is marked by a profound shift. Those who once doubted your calling, those who distanced themselves when you had nothing, and those who spoke ill of you or dismissed your worth, will now be compelled to witness the table that God Himself is setting before you. This is a season of divine vindication, where your elevation will be public, undeniable, and orchestrated by the hand of the Almighty. And understand this, the table being prepared before you is not a platform for ego or pride. It is a profound manifestation of your endurance, faith, and unwavering trust in God. Those who observed your silence mistook it for weakness. They interpreted your humility as a sign of defeat. They considered your obedience to divine instruction as foolishness. Yet throughout it all, God was not absent. He was watching attentively. He was recording every moment, every sacrifice, every tear. And now, He is responding. The table was not prepared in secrecy or behind the backs of those who ridiculed or rejected you. It is being prepared in full view, in plain sight, before the very eyes of those who doubted you. For this moment is not merely about receiving a blessing, it is about being vindicated. This is not an act of petty revenge or personal retribution. It is the unfolding of divine justice. And the true beauty of it all is this. When you sit at that table, you will do so healed. You will take your seat not with bitterness or resentment, but with a heart that is whole and clean. Not with clenched fists, but with open hands and peace within your soul. In this season, you will not seek revenge. You will extend grace. You will not wield your blessing as a symbol of pride, but rather as a vessel through which others may be blessed. You will feel no need to defend your journey or explain your transformation, for your life will speak with undeniable clarity and power on your behalf. You will not cry out in self-congratulation, "Look what I did." But instead, in quiet reverence, you will whisper, "Look what God has done." The pain you endured did not break you, it deepened you. The delays you faced did not weaken you, they strengthened you. The rejections you suffered did not uproot you, they anchored you. And now, the reward that God has prepared for you will not merely be noticeable, it will be impossible to ignore. Those who once doubted you, dismissed you, or predicted your failure will have no choice but to witness what God is doing in your life. Not because you sought their presence, but because God Himself orchestrated their attendance. He arranged the seating so that they would see you walk through doors they once claimed you would never reach. They will behold you thriving in spaces they once believed would crush you. And in that moment, it will become undeniably clear, this was never luck. This was the Lord. Understand this clearly. What is unfolding before you is not a setup for spectacle or self-promotion. It is a divine arrangement for glory. For when God prepares a table, no force in heaven or on earth can cancel the reservation. No lie, however cleverly constructed, can erase your name. No envy, no matter how deeply rooted, can obstruct your access. No betrayal, however painful, can sever your rightful place at the table. And here lies the divine irony. The very individuals who wounded you may one day find themselves in need of you. The mouths that once mocked and ridiculed you may now seek your counsel. The hands that pushed you away may eventually reach out, not in scorn, but in search of support. Yet your response will not be one of rejection or vengeance. For your healing has produced growth. Growth too profound to regress into bitterness. You will break bread in peace. You will laugh without pretense. You will live unapologetically, no longer shrinking to fit the expectations of others. Your radiance will become your testimony. Your very presence will serve as evidence of God's faithfulness. And your unshakable peace will be the wellspring of your strength. So do not be alarmed when familiar names begin to reappear, when past circumstances attempt to resurface, or when those who once dismissed you suddenly recall your name. It is not your duty to manage their conviction or to orchestrate their realization. Your sole responsibility is to remain focused on the table that God Himself is setting before you. Recognize this truth. The table being prepared before you is not merely a place for eating, it is a place of elevation. You were never forsaken, you were never forgotten. Rather, you were being intentionally set apart, sanctified through the process so that when the appointed time came and the feast was ready, you would be fully prepared, mature in spirit, steady in heart, and strong in purpose. That appointed time has now arrived. The table is set, and the story of your journey, the trials you endured, the faith you held, and the victory now unfolding, is destined to nourish more than just your soul. It will feed hearts, it will strengthen lives, it will inspire hope. Your testimony will not be confined to your own restoration. It will ripple outward, nourishing nations and generations to come. Chapter 7. This next season is not payback, it is purpose. Chosen one, understand this clearly. The season you are now entering is not a moment of payback, it is a manifestation of divine purpose. This is not a reward granted merely for your silence or restraint in the face of adversity. It is a release into the seat that has always rightfully belonged to you. This is not a belated apology from those who caused you harm, nor is it a human attempt at reconciliation. Rather, it is a divine declaration that the season of preparation has reached its appointed fulfillment. God is not moving now to prove your enemies wrong. He is moving to prove that your obedience, quiet, costly, and unwavering, was never in vain. You were not overlooked. You were hidden, preserved under divine protection. You were not rejected. You were being rooted, grounded deeply for the sake of refinement and strength. You were not forgotten. You were being carefully fashioned into a vessel capable of carrying the weight, the responsibility, and the magnitude of what comes next. This is not compensation. It is consecration. Not vindication for your ego, but validation of your calling. And now, the time has come. Every tear you shed in secret was not wasted. It became the very ink God used to write the next chapter of your life. Each silent battle you endured in isolation served as the training ground for a victory so profound, so unexpected, that no one could have anticipated its arrival. This is not an act of revenge. This is not a petty season of display or self-glorification. This is your divine release into a realm of purpose, where your impact will be undeniable and your presence unmistakable. You were born for this moment, but in order to carry the weight of this calling, you first had to endure what shattered others, so that you could be built differently, with greater resilience and deeper roots. You had to walk certain roads alone, not as punishment, but so that you would learn to recognize the voice of God without the noise of public affirmation. You had to be misunderstood, not as a mark of failure, but as a means through which God could fully heal, shape, and complete you, whole, set apart, and ready for the magnitude of what now stands before you. Had they understood you too soon, they would have sought to control the outcome of your journey. But now, the outcome belongs solely to God, and it will be undeniable. You are not merely stepping onto a platform, you are stepping into a purpose intricately tailored to the weight, purity, and strength of the spirit you carry. You did not compromise to arrive at this moment. You did not manipulate circumstances, beg for favor, or contort yourself to gain acceptance. You simply endured. You persevered through trials. And most profoundly, you healed. In silence, in strength, and in surrender. You worshipped, even while wounded. You labored and built in silence, unseen by many, but fully known by God. You chose to trust Him when every external circumstance urged you to give up. And now heaven is responding, not because of outward performance, but because of your posture and positioning before God. You never sought the spotlight, you sought strength. You did not pray to be noticed, you prayed to be sustained. And because your heart remained pure and your motive undefiled, God is now exalting you in a manner that cannot be replicated by human effort, fabricated by worldly systems, or denied by any opposing voice. You are not shining to impress others. You are glowing because the very glory of God is resting upon your life. They expected you to return bitter, hardened by the pain, but instead you return better, refined by grace. They anticipated arrogance and gloating, yet you carry too much gratitude to engage in petty games. They assumed you would use your platform as a tool for revenge, but you have chosen a higher path, one where your story becomes a source of hope for those who believe their pain would last forever. And that, in truth, is the greatest triumph. Not fame, not fortune, but fulfillment. Fulfillment in knowing that your suffering was not in vain. Fulfillment in witnessing your scars now speak life into others. Fulfillment in the reality that you are walking in something eternal, something divinely anchored, while many continue chasing what is fleeting and temporary. This season is not about catching up to others. It is about stepping fully into the divine assignment prepared uniquely for you. You are not behind. You are not late. You are precisely on time for the very purpose heaven ordained for you, long before you ever drew your first breath. And what lies ahead is not small, mediocre, or predictable. It is deliberate, it is divine, it is strategic, supernatural, and sacred in every sense. This time, you are not advancing alone. You are stepping forward under divine covering, anointed, appointed, and assigned by God Himself. And when those who once walked away inquire how you made it, how you endured, and how you are now thriving, you will not respond with bitterness or pride. You will not cast blame or throw shade. Instead, you will respond with humility and clarity, giving all glory where it is due. You will simply say, God did it, and He did it in such a way that no one else can take the credit. The truth is, you were never striving to prove anything to them. Your only aim was to remain faithful to Him. And now it is God who is making the outcome public. This is not an act of payback. It is purpose revealed, purpose made visible for all to see. This is not revenge, it is resurrection, the restoration of what was buried, and the unveiling of what was always ordained. This is not a pursuit of attention. It is a fulfillment of divine assignment. You are no longer the person they once left behind. You have been transformed, refined, and positioned for something far greater than their understanding ever allowed. You are no longer the version of yourself that once begged for validation or struggled to be understood. You now walk as living, breathing, undeniable evidence of what God can accomplish through a life fully surrendered to Him. And soon, the very people who once said you never would will be the ones to declare that only God could have brought you this far. This is your moment. This is your season. This is your divine release, not for the sake of proving what you survived, but for the fulfillment of the very assignment you were sent to carry out. And if you're still hungry for more chapters to this journey, or a visual concept for a video or thumbnail, just say the word. I'm here and ready to help bring it all to life. Thanks for watching. Here ends this video. Take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. If you find this video interesting,